I did make a mistake during our Catterday segment. I used a submitted photo of a cat with an inappropriate name. I don't want to use the name here, but I never intended to hurt or offend anyone by using that picture that was actually just given to me. I understand my mistake and I am deeply sorry. And in the future, I will absolutely be more diligent with this content to ensure it never happens again.
15 degrees below zero right now, so certainly this is kind of weather for the cats. So we've got our Saturday night forecast for you now, where we are featuring Kittler here, thanks to Debbie Alexander. And I think Kittler kind of looks like throwing down with here, so I
It's Catterday. Come on. How are people offended by this? You know what I'm offended about? Out of control billionaires like Bill Gates that are going to be blocking out the sun this summer. Massive, huge waves of violence in Chicago that is absolutely ignored by the mainstream media, that is literally pushing a divide and conquer narrative, manipulating information, obfuscating crimes, all to push a race-based agenda, while establishment media figures are literally releasing satanic shoes with actual human blood in them. All the while, the Biden administration is literally telling immigrants to come in and then caging them. You know, I don't know about you, but I find all of those things way more offensive than, of course, Kittler. Come on, it was Catterday. She was trying to make a joke for her Catterday night forecast. Come on. As a person who, by the way, whose large amounts of family died because of the Germans in World War II in the camps and also fighting them, as a proud Polish man, I give this Becky weather lady the pass. She gets the pass. She's fine. Becky, I don't even know if your name's Becky or not. On behalf of me, my family, my lineage, I officially bestow onto you the pass to talk about as you want about the events that happened in the 1930s. Also, seriously, yes, Bill Gates is going to be blocking out a portion of the sun this summer. I talked about it in the last video on this channel, which I definitely recommend that you should definitely check out. Now, before jumping into our main topic, especially from the bombshell revelations from the former CDC director and the new shocking, eye-opening data coming from Texas that is absolutely, totally disproving the establishment media narrative, let's talk about the kids and the people that were invited into the United States by the Biden administration and then literally thrown in cages. As of course, it's important to note here, as we've been reporting to you for a long time now, that the Biden administration has been doing its best in order to obfuscate and make sure that lawyers, journalists, and even politicians don't get to see the facilities that are running at overcapacity after, of course, Biden reversed a very important Donald Trump policy, which was called the Remain in Mexico policy, and it allowed asylum seekers not to be put in cages and allowed them to wait in Mexico as, of course, they waited to get their hearings heard in front of a judge. Biden got rid of that policy. There was a huge influx of people on the border as, of course, he welcomed them in. He told them to come in. And now, look at this crisis unfolding that, of course, the Biden administration members are doing their best to make sure that, of course, no one knows about what actually is happening, as perfectly highlighted by this latest clip by Ted Cruz, a U.S. senator who decided to show up at this facility where he was met with a Karen that told him that covering up what really was happening there was, quote, respectful. I'm not joking you. Here, take a listen.
So you work for the commissioner, your senior advisor. You were hired 2 weeks ago, and you're instructed to ask us to not have any pictures taken here.
Please respect the people,
because the
rules.
political leadership at DHS does not want the American people to know it.
Please respect the rules,
You keep
sir.
standing in front of the pictures, so
Please
you don't want the
respect the
pictures taken. The rules are arbitrary, and
Please
they're designed
respect the
to keep
rules
the
and
American
give the
people in the dark.
dignity and respect.
Yeah, wow. Putting people in cages after telling them to come in is not dignity or respect, and what the Biden administration is doing is absolutely distasteful and legitimately needs to be called out, as of course the Biden administration is making sure that no one knows about the true nature of this situation. They are responsible for this situation, and them obfuscating it shows you what kind of people we're really dealing with here. Now, after Ted Cruz's visit, which by the way the Biden administration was trying to get him to delete those videos, we're also hearing that Donald Trump is planning a visit to the U.S. border as well, while of course Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, was asked if she would go to the border, and then she laughed and said no. Someone made this great skit video highlighting this event from a satirical perspective.
Procedures. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's packed like sardines in here.
And even though that's satire, that's not far away from the actual clip of Kamala Harris laughing at this situation. And what did you expect from an administration ducking and diving the press, many times refusing to answer their questions, preferring to be less transparent and less accountable to the people? This was, of course, perfectly exemplified by Joe Biden's first press conference a few days ago, which absolutely was tragic, even though the president had a cheat sheet with headshots of reporters and which ones to ask for, as well as talking point cards to specifically address the questions that in many instances are usually pre-planned and staged. Even in those incidences, Joe Biden has trouble. And if that's because he can't keep the story straight, or whether it's because of his physical or mental health, either way, this is not a good sign for the United States, as this man is supposedly at the helm of government for the next 4 years. Now, the mainstream media sees this event totally different. They usually applaud Mr. Joe Biden, especially when he makes one coherent sentence, which doesn't happen often, but I think it's very fair to say that the mainstream media's coverage of Joe Biden and his press conferences has been absolutely skewed, and sadly don't highlight the bigger picture here, which of course independent media usually does. Independent media that is around mainly because of your help and your support, and one very easy, amazing way to support us is by checking out the companies that we work with. One of them is with the conspiracy game that absolutely on its face value sounds ridiculous, but they sent me the game. I played it extensively at the Beanie compound, and surprisingly, I had a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed playing this game with my friends, getting away from the computer, getting away from the phone. I had a lot of fun. I think you will too. And as the game reads, whether you're a conspiracy buff or a sheeple, this game's going to be fun for you, and the tinfoil hat is not included. So yeah, check out the game by clicking the link in the description down below right now to find out more about them. Also, today I'm doing another video specifically about Florida and my personal experiences down here, as well as the pretty incredible things the government has been doing here. I never thought I would say that. But yes, I will be talking about that extensively on lukeuncensored.com. The video will be available later today. Now, when it comes to the entire situation that the world was involved in 2020, I have to be kind of vague here, but as you know, we've been highlighting a lot of anomalies, a lot of things that absolutely don't make sense, especially when it comes to countries like Sweden, and particular case studies like Texas, especially when you compare them to other states like California, with their total difference of approach towards this and the effects of that, as we're learning more information that is highlighting how a lot of the heavy-handed government response is, according to some reports, absolutely pointless and actually counterproductive, hurting more people rather than, of course, helping them. This is, of course, according to some of the preliminary data that we're looking at, that we've been looking at for a while now. But this latest data coming out of Texas pretty much solidifies it, as of course we're learning that the numbers of cases are falling and continuing to fall for the 17th consecutive day, following, of course, the governor's announcement that they will not be implementing any lockdowns or having any mask mandates. This move was, of course, very heavily criticized by the mainstream media and the Joe Biden administration that called it, quote, Neanderthal thinking, but is showing to be policy that actually works, and according to many people has led to a huge decrease in cases, hospitalizations, which are at the lowest level since, of course, October. Now, I think the Biden administration and all the mainstream media screaming and attacking the governor 17 days ago for doing this deserve to give the governor an apology, since a lot of the preliminary data as of right now coming in highlights how they were absolutely wrong and how his move could have actually helped people. Since, of course, there's other data highlighting how other states who have severe lockdowns, who have very stringent mask mandates, particularly states like California, Michigan, and New York, haven't done as well and actually have had more cases, more hospitalizations, and more deaths than, of course, states that typically weren't as restrictive. Now, again, there's absolutely a lot of things that don't make sense here. There's different states highlighting different data points. But when we had the California governor call the Texas governor absolutely reckless, when we had CNN running stories that nurses were scared because of the Texas government's actions, as Vanity Fair said that this was going to kill another 500,000 Americans, as Dr. Fauci raged about how it was inexplicable, I think it's fair to say that as of right now, that they were absolutely wrong. There's also been very similar data points with the country of Sweden, which, honestly speaking, we should give some big consideration and have a real conversation about this moving forward, since, of course, many other states are not dealing with the situation as well as Texas is, and they're deciding to lock down more. Another very strange, weird anomaly that's been happening here with this particular case is the fact that states and countries that are getting the shot for this sickness the most are typically showing a spike in cases. Yes, we have this article here from the Daily Mail that's reporting how Chile had a very fast rollout of the shot, which they say coincides with a spike in cases. Forbes also had a very similar article talking about how cases are spiking in over a dozen states with the highest rates of people taking the shot. Now, again, what's happening here, we don't know. Correlation is not causation. I did extensively talk about this issue on LukeUncensored.com, where I was able to speak more freely about this issue, but I think it's very fair to say that there definitely should be a bigger conversation about this, as well as more research and studies, since, of course, some of this data looks troubling. The government's response to all of this is even more troubling, according to my own personal opinion, as some people and government officials are calling for more restrictions, more lockdowns, more heavy penalties and fines that punish only poor people, with even some campaigners in the United Kingdom calling for 2 years of lockdown, along with the 24-hour curfew, with the government granting people permission to leave their dwellings. In New York, which handled this entire situation, I would say, the worst than any other state in the union, they are announcing that they are launching their shot passports, specifically giving people a code on their cell phone or a printout that proves that they took the shot, which already is in play at Madison Square Garden and other venues, that is creating a situation where if you haven't taken this shot, you won't be able to go to. This is going to lead to a huge legal argument, as of course the New York government is leading the way under the leadership of Andrew Cuomo, who's responsible for an estimated 15,000 nursing home deaths because of his executive policy, which pushed sick people into nursing homes. He also has some very serious allegations against him, and you would think the man accused of mass murder and making women feel uncomfortable, setting up a track, trace, and database system with QR codes on cell phones, allowing or denying people to go somewhere, would be a little bit troubling. But no, there's very little coverage of this IBM Digital Health Pass that, of course, has many serious privacy and civil liberties concerns. IBM setting up a track, trace, and database system. Now, where did I hear about that before? When did that happen? What a strange coinkydink there, to say the least. And I'm going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, on LukeUncensored.com, where, of course, I will be detailing how Florida is going out of its way to make sure that these shot passports are not implemented in this state. And I already went over my time, so I will be extensively talking about what the former CDC director said on LukeUncensored.com. 50 cents a day keeps independent media alive and well and eating well. And YouTube banned people who were talking about this just a few months ago, so I don't want to take any risk. This channel is for the normies, everyone else who really wants to be in the know. And if you want to hear everything I have to say that's unfiltered, uncensored, well, you're going to have to check out LukeUncensored.com, which also, of course, also goes towards supporting and establishing this independent media organization to be able to hire more people and do more amazing projects. We got some really fun stuff coming your way, only here on, of course, We Are Change, the normie-friendly YouTube channel that is walking a very fine line. Regardless, I'm still having a lot of fun here, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.